Hello, everyone. Before we get started with today's podcast episode, let's go ahead and go over some housekeeping rules. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, be sure to hit the follow notification button so Spotify lets you know when I release a new episode. As well, leave me a comment on what you enjoy about the podcast and give me a 5-star rating. This is how you can support my podcast. And the disclaimer is I am not a licensed psychiatrist or therapist. My suggestions and my guests are based on general knowledge and life experiences. If you're considering making significant changes or dealing with personal issues, seek and talk to a licensed mental health professional. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Blessed Day Reflection by Abia listeners. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here to reflect on our life journey. We will be discussing topics related to self-awareness, self-improvement, and mental health. Also, the purpose of this safe space is for us to be free to discuss the ups and downs, celebrate the wins, and talk about ways to improve the lows. So welcome to this podcast, and I hope you gain something from this time we share together. Hey guys, how you doing? It is your girl Bia Grant. Welcome back to another episode of Reflection by Abia. Hope you guys are doing well and that you are having a blessed and glorious day. At the time of recording this episode, it is May the 16th. And it's it's some stuff going on today, guys. Ironically, today I will be working from home. Um, that's one of the things that's going on with me. I like to get into, what's affecting me. But today I am working from home, and it's been a long time since I have done that. Not sure if you guys are aware. New Jersey Transit decided to have a strike. They're asking for a pay increase, which is valid and something that they should want. It's rough out here in the streets. But with that being said, I normally take the train into work. I actually take 3 trains into work. However, one of those trains is the New Jersey Transit train. So therefore, since they are deciding to strike, there is no trains going into Newark. I'm not sure if anybody knows anything about New Jersey or New York or Newark is kind of like the hub to disperse to different parts of Manhattan. So with that being a strike and no trains are running through New Jersey, I opted just to stay home and work from home, and they're going to see how this goes. I am hoping it all goes well because you guys know, like last time I worked from home for my last job, it was a very tough situation of balancing work and just my work-life balance. It was very tough to do, and I find that, or I hope that it's better, but I haven't tested it since. So this will be the kind of like the first test to see if I can balance that and making sure, okay, you sign off at 5 o'clock and, punching at 9, sign off at 5 and keep it moving. But I'm going to do my best and everything. But that's what's been going on because I've been watching the news about that, and it officially came down today. Outside of that, all else is pretty good. There's not much going on this week. It's been a fairly quiet week, ironically. I'm hoping that doesn't change. I'm hoping that remains the same because, sometimes when it gets too quiet, it starts to get, kind of fishy and everything. But I'm hoping that, no other things starts to, become a problem. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode. And this episode is going to likely be titled Letting Life Pass You By. I think that's going to be the running title of this week's episode. And I've had this discussion before, and I have talked about how I have not showed up for myself in my life and celebrating the successes. The reason why I wanted to have this conversation today was because I was actually commuting on the train earlier in the week, and I overheard this young man talk to, I guess, a friend, female friend, in regards into, you know, how was he enjoying his life. The conversation was about his birthday, like what was he going to be doing for his birthday. And pretty much what he had said was that honestly, he hadn't thought about it very much. And he's just been, I guess you could say, living life or letting life live him. And I guess he didn't really say it's been rough, but just based off of his tone, he just was like, I'm just focused off of work or focused on going to work, coming home, and doing it all over, the next day. You could tell that he just didn't have any type of like motivation or just strength or just, I don't know like the right word, but you could just tell that he just was in a place, or he is in a place of this, I'm just going to focus on work and I'm not focusing on any of the other things that's going on in my life. The things that could possibly make me happy. And I remember being very much like this earlier, I want to say 3, 4 years ago, that especially when COVID hit, of just this mentality and this mindset. And I felt honestly so sad for him, because it's like I remember that feeling of not wanting to celebrate the good things, not wanting to celebrate your birthday, just going with the motions. And, for me, what helped, and I'm going to get like more into, this, but for me, what helped was owning these feelings and how I felt, and trying to work on ways to take myself out of this mindset, or out of this, what they call this rut. That was like how I tried to do it. I, went to a therapist. I talked about that, on previous episodes and stuff. So I was trying to, find certain tools to pull myself out of that feeling and those emotions, because the thing is that once you allow for these emotions to take a hold on you, it's very hard to pull yourself out of those feelings. So like, I wanted to talk about that in this week's episode. I wanted to talk about just being accustomed to the routine, and how that you need to be present in your life. And I want to talk about ways that how can I say this? I want to talk about what does it mean to let life pass you by. I also want to talk about how did I stop letting life pass me by. So let's go ahead and get into the first topic, I guess you can say, or first bullet point that I highlighted. And that is, what does it mean to let life pass you by? Like I mentioned earlier, it's allowing life to, you are basically existing in life without any purpose. Okay. You are just letting life, and you're there, but you do not have any drive or ambition to do any more than what life is throwing at you. Okay. You are on autopilot. You are doing all the things you normally do without breaking your routine. How many times have I talked to you guys about that? How I get so fixated on the routine, and it is so difficult for me to break from that routine, to even find tools in order to do things better, or not be so invested in something that I don't necessarily need to be invested in, you know. And allowing for it to take a hold of me and be my primary. Um, I think that can definitely affect of letting your life pass you by, because it's like, maybe I don't need to focus on this. The thing is, like, you have dreams. A lot of us have dreams and a lot of us have desires. So it's like, why should I be giving up all those things for something that's mediocre, that it's just what life throws at you, but I only need to deal with it for a period of time. I don't need to allow for it to take over my whole existence. You see what I'm saying? And I think for me, I allow work to do that. I allow work to take up my whole existence. And I was so fixated on doing what I need to do, being there, being, responsible, um, doing all the work, stepping up to the plate, taking control, not relinquishing. Look, I always get very tongue tied with this word. Not relinquishing control, okay, to someone else and thinking I have to be the one to control everything. All right, that's so big. Um, Letting life slip through your fingers and you can't seem to catch it. How many times have you just want to do something, have this ambition, and you're like, all right, I could do X, Y, and Z, but because something else is taking priority, when it's time to do X, Y, and Z, it's slipping right through your fingers because you're so focused on the other stuff, and then you're like, afterwards, you're like, pretty much like, darn, I had the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm letting this other situation be priority. How many times have that happened? Okay? You're doing busy work. This is so freaking relevant. You're doing busy work, but nothing feels meaningful or worthwhile. It's like, yeah, you are the keeper of all the stuff. For me, like I said, it was work. So you're the keeper of all the work stuff, everything that's going on. However, it's meaningless because if you were not there tomorrow or next week or next month, stuff would get done without you. You hear what I'm saying? So you're making this so relevant to your life and your situation. But if you weren't there, it will still get done by somebody else. Like, I'm telling you guys, this is such, I feel like, a very important topic. And I really think that we don't realize the weight that we put on ourselves to just exist and not do more than that and not show up for ourselves. Okay? This is such a freaking big topic, and the list can go on and on and on about letting light pass you by. We could do a whole running list, I'm pretty sure. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Reflection by Abia. Feel free to check out the podcast Facebook and Instagram page. The links will be available in the show notes. Let's get back to the podcast. But going back to that young man that I clearly saw that he was tired. I clearly saw that he was depleted. He was exhausted. I like I mentioned earlier, I can understand that he's probably experiencing a lot of life changes. Just to throw out there, he's a black man and everything. So that's a whole nother level of, stuff. And maybe he's the type of person who's just keeping his head down and focus on what he needs to focus on. Who knows? But I could just tell he was dealing with a lot of challenges. And, you know, I just, mentioned early and I mentioned again, it's like when you struggle with purpose, and it just seems like that was what he was struggling with, was just the purpose of living life. You're going to be doing what he's doing right now, or what he is doing right now, and just going to work, coming home, eat or whatever, and then going right back and doing the same thing all over again. So it's like, again, you have to find your purpose in life, whatever that may be. And it's different from that. It's different for everyone. Like for me, my purpose is to be able to travel, be able to spend time with my husband, be able to make friendships and connections. When I had a business, my purpose, that's on hold. But when I was doing my business stuff, my purpose was growing my business. Like I was finding things outside of work that gave me that drove me, or I had drive outside, and I could see successes in those things. It's like you're not only made up of just one thing. There's so many other parts of you. So you have to implement those necessary things. You have to find out what that is, and you have to, bring it to the forefront and work on them. How did I stop letting life pass me by? For one, I had to come to the realization that I would do what I do in my life is my choice. Okay. I think a lot of times, especially in my case, we feel like we don't have a choice. We feel like, our lives are controlled by so many of the factors and or outside factors. But the fact of the matter is that you still have control over your life. You know, whatever decision that you may make, may it be difficult? Yes, it will be difficult. But you have control over what you want to do. And I think like when we get that mindset and we get that thought into our head and knowing that, like I had to learn that no one or no situation controls me. Then you're able to start to find the necessary tools and kind of just see the light, for yourself, and knowing that that nobody else moves the pieces but you. Like God, yes, He's there. He's a creator. But outside of that, nobody has control over you. You have control over you. Not work, not school, not family, not none of those things. And if you are relinquishing control over to them or a situation and it's not working out for you, then that's something that you need to look at. And I don't honestly think you should be relinquishing control to anyone. That's just my mindset. But some people do. I just don't advocate for that. Okay. So I'm gonna move on to the next bullet point of how did I stop letting life pass me by, and that's letting myself know that it's never too late to start or start again. I got stuck in thinking I'm too old, I'm too broken. Little changes won't make a difference, so what's the point? I had to reclaim my meaning. Okay, I'm about to get into what it means I had to reclaim my meaning, but let's talk about just this start or start again. Okay, for me, I am 41 years old. I'll be 42 this year in June. And a lot of times I felt, well, you are too old to, one, be going through what you're going through. You're not a kid. So what are you doing? I felt that it was too late to even want to change who I am or work on the things that I didn't, feel what that was worthwhile to me. So I just would be like not not have any drive, not have any ambition to even want to start, But through therapy and through a lot of just sitting down and learning about me and what I need, I said, you know what? I need to start. And if I mess up, okay, I messed up, then I'm just gonna restart again until I get it right. And I feel like if you apply this to life, life will get much easier because we're going to have many times in our life where things are not going to work out the way that you expected for it to do. You're going to have many times in your life where you're going to mess up. It's going to happen, so you have to have that drive to get back. And as they say, get back on the horse. You need to get back on the horse. You know, you need to start or start again. And like I said, with the part of feeling broken, oh, that is, feeling broken is a beast. Feeling broken is a beast because when you feel broken, you feel like there's no way for you to put the pieces back together. However, what I could say in my case is that doing a lot of sitting with myself, I mentioned that earlier, just focusing on how can I be present and accept that, there was trouble, but I don't have to embody it. I don't have to punish myself for it. Yeah, you know what I mean? That I can start to put myself together. It was a lot of discussions with my loved ones because part of my pieces of feeling broken, especially with the work-life balance, was I broke a lot of pieces of other people pieces. So I felt like internally I was fixing my pieces and their pieces. You see what I'm saying? Because what I was doing was affecting them, which can very much keep you in a place of no change. So I had to accept the fact that this is what I did. This is what I'm going to do to be better. And sitting down and having those discussions with people that I hurt and asking for forgiveness really helped, you know. So I know that's like a little bit, far off from this topic, but it did affect me just living life or enjoying life, the way that I needed to enjoy life and showing up with just a purpose, you know? So that is something that I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to get into how did I reclaim my meaning? Okay, so basically, what does that mean? All right, when I wrote this out, I was like, okay, what did this mean to me? So basically, for me, it meant recognizing my value and saying I'm going to take up space in my life for my own purposes, and that control is not a factor. That is what it means to me to reclaim my meaning. Is I have to value me, and going back into that young man, we could tell he didn't value him. Like he said, I'm going to work, I'm going home, I'll eat, and then I get up and I do it again the next day. What value is in that? That's just, again, letting life run you. Yeah, you letting life control you. No. So you have to find that value and that purpose within yourself in order to make, the necessary changes. When you don't value or appreciate yourself, that means that nobody or no situation around you is going to value you. That's what that means. Nobody or no situation is going to value you if you do not value yourself. Because if you value yourself, then you're going to show up for yourself. When situations or people try to control you, you're going to show up for yourself. But if you don't value yourself, you're not showing up. You're just letting people or situations control. And what do you get out of that? I was going to say value, but I didn't want to use the word 1,001 times. So what are you going to get out of that? So that's just something to think about. And I can understand it's very intimidating. For me, going through this journey in my life, it was very intimidating to take back my power. It was very intimidating because I was so used to relinquishing it and feeling like I had to do X, Y, and Z because it was expected of me. But I had to be just accountable. I had to, well, first I had to learn I was doing the wrong thing. And then I had to make the necessary changes. And then I had to be accountable and making sure that I wasn't going to allow for it to happen again. And it took time. It took a lot of, falling short and then getting back, you know, and doing better. This wasn't a 1, 2, 3, situation or anything like that. So, if I was this young lady, talking to this gentleman, going back into that, what I would tell him to do is show up for his, he said it was his birthday coming up. Clearly, him mentioning it, I don't know if it's he mentioned it or she mentioned it, but clearly for it coming up, it meant something to him. So I would say show up for yourself for your birthday. That doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, you got to go out and go party or anything like that. But just do one nice thing for yourself. If it's something that you've been wanting to get for yourself for that, period of time. Do that nice thing for yourself. Take yourself out to eat, take yourself to the park. Whatever it is that's going to pour into you, you don't have to necessarily do a big thing. But it's acknowledging that celebration of life. Like, I'm not going to be any person anymore, or does that make any sense? I'm not going to be a person again in my life where I'm not going to celebrate my birthday. I am going to celebrate my birthday, whether it means I'm staying home and celebrating, if it means I'm taking a trip and I'm celebrating, even if I'm by myself, I'm celebrating because God has given me breath to make it another year. And that's what I would tell him. That is what I would tell him, is to show up for himself. But I didn't, stay for the whole, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop because I just overheard the conversation. And like I said, part of me really wanted to say something, but I'm like, I'm a whole stranger. This dude don't know me. So, yeah, I was just like, I guess you could say, what's that word where you think of something, you try to like beam it to the other person? Like, I was just trying to just like let him know that it will be okay, like internally. Just energy. I feel like energy was what I was trying to give to him. So, hopefully he does something. I don't know him from a can of paint, but and I would likely never see him again. But hopefully he shows up for himself. So in closing, where I want to end this episode is saying that life keeps moving. Okay? Life keeps moving. Now, you owe it to yourself to do more than just exist. We should not be existing out here in this world. We should be living. We should be present in our life. Even through the hard times, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay? We need to show up for ourselves. And I should just take a moment and think about where you want to be in making the small changes. If you're letting life pass you by, what small changes can you implement that will help you? And as you start to stack these small things, life is going to start to get better. I am a survivor, I guess you could say, of that. Okay. So guys, that is where I'm going to leave this week podcast episode. All right, guys. So stay blessed out there in those streets and make sure you treat others kindly in those streets. And God willing, I'll talk to you guys in the next podcast episode. Thank you for listening to Reflection by Abia. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about today's episode and share the podcast with your friends and family. The link will be available in the show notes.